As entrepreneurs, we want to make it big. We want to be global players. Many of us have never done it. I've got an entrepreneur here who has really done it differently than almost any of the fellow entrepreneurs I've had the privilege of meeting, but he's made a huge dent in his niche, become the world's largest playing based music around the world. I mean, 750 locations in 11 countries. And he's here to share with us how you can take the lessons he's learned and accelerate your success even more. I'm John Bowen. We're at aesnation.com. Stay tuned. You do not want to miss Neil Moore.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. aesnation.com.
Neil, I am so excited to have you here. We've had the privilege of being in Joe Polish's Genius Network Mastermind group for a long time together, but we've really, we're both running so hard we haven't sat down and done one of these yet.
I know, it's great, actually. I've always liked you. You've just got that great energy about you, and it's a really terrific opportunity for me to spend some time with you, John. So thanks for sitting down with me this morning. I appreciate it.
And Neil, you're really impressive. You are executing. I mean, one of the things that we talked kind of in the pre-interview before we turned on the camera, that you're not a marketing guy, and I go, I don't know. And Joe Polishes is more of a marketing CEO. Yeah. Mastermind group. But I got to tell you, Neil's accomplished some pretty amazing things, and I want to share, have Neil share with us what he's done. A lot of the lessons I've learned, and he's out there executing, doing some of the some pretty interesting new things that are coming out as well. But let's go, Neil. One of the ways I like to start with the backstory, because. I mean, you didn't decide to be, from day one, a global player, the largest in the music playing educational business. How did this all happen?
Yeah, well, I've had an affinity with music since infancy, youngest of 5 kids, and my relationship with music, even as an infant, if music was playing in the home, I was lying by the radio, transfixed, and you could put music on in any room of the home, and I would roll to wherever the music was playing, and that's where I just wanted to lay. And I had this affinity with music, and began studying music at the age of 7. But at around about 3 or 4 years of age, I discovered that I hear music, and as I'm listening to music, I start to develop these pictures of 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. And when I began studying piano, my teacher would play the song that I was going to be learning, and I could see those shapes across the instrument. And really, that was the basis of how I learned to play music. I was supposed to be learning to read like all my older brothers, but I didn't have any connection with that at all. I was, actually thought I was doing the wrong thing. And so this way of learning music, I sort of kept it hidden. And it really wasn't until my adult years that I began studying music formally, and decided that I would transition into music education. I'd left school pretty young, John. I love learning, but I passionately hated school. I only successfully completed 10th grade, and 11th grade I think I skipped class most of the year, and by the time we got to finals at the end of the year, I had to fabricate a way to get out of finals because I knew I'd fail miserably. So I convinced a family surgeon that they had to put me into hospital and do an emergency surgery to remove my appendix just to get out of doing finals. I can't believe that I did it, but I was as committed then as I am now. And so I just wanted to get out into the workforce. So I was working by the age of 16. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I belonged to music, but I didn't really know what the professional opportunity would be there. So I ended up becoming a restaurant owner, and I had several restaurants that were successful businesses. And for me, it was one of those cases of a successful business owner, but successful but unsatisfied. And I really didn't know what was behind that. I just thought, what do I do? I mean, I'm doing well financially, a beautiful wife, beautiful home, great cars, beautiful children, but I just didn't feel like I was doing what I was meant to be doing. And I thought then the solution might have been, well, get another restaurant. And, after a while, it had that same mundane emptiness. So, okay, I'll get another one. And I just wasn't getting to that point of satisfaction. And I made a couple of bad business decisions. And I went through a complete financial wipeout, total financial wipeout. And I remember one day in Australia in particular where, my home was being sold and our cars were being towed away. And I just saw that I'd been pursuing money. My view was to earn enough money so I could retire and just do music, whatever that meant. And I just saw that the equation of pursue money to then do what I love was a broken equation for me. And I just made a pact that from that day onwards, I would just devote myself to music. And if that's what I was meant to be doing, then my hope was that the world would align in my favor and that path would reveal itself. And literally, that's how it was for me. I came over here to the United States just over 20 years ago with my wife, my 3 kids, $5,000 to our name, life possessions in 3 suitcases, and an idea. And I began teaching music. I got a call one day from a government agency, and they asked me if I'd take on teaching this young 8-year-old boy who was blind. And for me, it's like, okay, I want to teach this kid. I don't know how to teach him because, he can't read music. I didn't know what else to do. And it wasn't until then that it occurred to me, hang on, I never learned to read music. What was I doing when I was a kid? And that was really the first time that I brought consciousness to it. And so I sat down and began to reconstruct the way that I saw these shapes and patterns. And I was able to show him what he was doing, and he was doing brilliantly well. And then I discovered he'd been teaching his 4-year-old sister how to play using the same technique. And it was just like a light bulb moment. Wow, I wonder if I could show all kids this approach. And as I began sharing it, kids were producing brilliant results. And I thought still then, maybe they're getting such a great result because this approach is so organic to me. Maybe I could share it with other teachers and see what results they got. And as I began sharing that with other teachers, they came back saying, we haven't seen results like this ever before. And I think that what happened is that, I developed this into a system of learning with a focus on, I want, for me, every single human being, without exception, is profoundly musical. Absolutely everybody. And this world of illusion that we have that it takes a long time, or you've got to start when you're young, or you need a special talent, none of that is true. It's all about the way that we access getting it into our hands. And I discovered a way of being able to do that that's unique and that it's transformative, and it brings immediate musicianship to everybody. And people are impacted by that. There's just a world of people that have longed to play. There's a world of people that had lessons and it was so grueling that they gave up. And there's a world of people who just don't believe they're musical. And this is a program that just dispels all those myths and brings immediate musicianship to everyone. And because people are so impacted by that musical self-expression, they're compelled to talk about it. And that's really how we grew. I started with a small handful of teachers that I was sharing the program with, and that grew to more. And they started telling their friends, and the students started telling their friends, and we just grew organically. And here we are now, heading towards, well, my next milestone is the first 1,000, but we can really see that we're on the knee of the exponential curve now. And we see over the next 2 years, we'll go from 700 plus to 7,000. And my intention is 70,000 2 years after that. And I truly believe that we can impact billions of people and transform self-expression in the world through music.
Well, let me stop you here, Neil, because one of the things I want everyone who, whether you're watching us and should be watching this on video so you can capture the full passion that Neil has, and having hung out with Neil over the years, and I mean, this is truly his passion. And Neil and I have another good friend, Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach, and
yes, lovely Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, I think he always talks about you've got to find as an entrepreneur, who you want to be a hero to. You got to marry that passion. I always, because I'm a financial guy, I also say you have to bring a third circle in. And then you have to be able to monetize it. When you bring all 3 of those together, and it's not monetized to make a ton of money, it's monetizing so it's sustainable, so you can continue to grow, so you can touch,
exactly,
all the lives that you're talking about touching, Neil, or in each of our businesses. I mean, with technology today, our ability to expand this like crazy, but one of the things that you do is you bring that passion. And this is something that's so important, and particularly, when you and I are talking about marketing in the past. I mean, so much in Joe's mastermind group, Genius Network, all this sophisticated technique and so on. And Neil is just, one of the he's doing more than what he's saying here, but I would say the biggest part is that passion, getting results, and allowing you to get word of mouth. So it's spreading. You've got so many marketing apostles.
Yeah, it's been a remarkable journey. In fact, things have changed dramatically. It's almost as though we've hit I still consider us to be a startup. 20 years into this project, it very much still feels like a beginning point for me. But even so, we've had enough longevity, and we've had enough growth for us to establish some credibility, and it's meant that we've been able to diversify into some really extraordinary projects, John. And some of the things that we're taking on at the moment, for example, we're in the midst of producing the world's first adaptive music education curriculum. It's a piano curriculum, and it's designed for extremely low functioning special needs, children with special needs. And this is an area that is a huge social concern. It's a hugely complex area, and so many of these children don't have a voice. And we've discovered with this program that we can give these children a voice. And we're about to launch a crowdfunding campaign to fund the last phase of the development of this program. But what's really epically exciting about this is that we're going to give this program away to every special needs family in the world for free. This is a huge opportunity for us to make an enormous contribution to tens of millions of families in that arena. The other end of this at the,
Well,
at the
let me
scale.
just stop here just for a second, because I mean,
Okay.
that's a big one. I want to make sure
Yeah.
that we all capture it. Because
Yeah, it's
what
fantastic.
what I want everybody to be thinking about as we're listening with Neil is it's not, this is what Neil's doing in his business, growing it exponentially, taking advantage. I mean, Neil, you and I, a few weeks ago, we were at Peter Diamandis' Abundance 360 Mastermind Group. For a guy who didn't finish high school, I see you at all these lifelong, high premium meetings you and I are both going to.
Yes.
And you are, when I talk with other people, you are one of I think you and I are probably some of the quickest executors of ideas out there. And you're making things happen. And,
Thank you.
crowdfunding. Okay, this is, coming out and, whether it's for a for-profit interest or whether it's for a for-profit, but
Yes.
testing this idea and getting the funding. I mean, this is, this wasn't possible really, 2 or 3 years ago. Now this is something you can do, and you can refine it through
Yes.
that process to really touch an awful lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing for us as well is that it's not so much even the acquisition of crowd generated resources. For me, it's more the opportunity to rally the team, to rally the masses, to get the community behind a partnership where we're making this sort of a contribution on a global scale by the community itself. So that's the thing about it that I'm most excited about, that not so much the funding, but the team of people who contribute to make it all happen, and we do it as a partnership. That's the really exciting.
Well, and-
People want to be a part of something that matters.
Yeah,
and
we
makes
want
a
to be
difference.
we want to be engaged. You now
Yes.
have that platform. I mean, we're on you could be watching us on the web. You could be watching us on iTunes or Stitcher. These platforms exist, and with the technology, we can leverage it. Kickstarter, Indiegogo. I mean, these are great platforms that we
Yes.
can use to bring our community together, our tribe.
Yes.
And you're doing it really well. Now, you were saying that there were a couple of things out you're also doing too.
Yeah, well, the separate from the crowdfunding approach, we're also looking at how do we crowdsource intelligence? How do we crowdsource genius? So one of the things that I'm extremely excited about, just let me give you a brief background. For me, everyone's musical. I think that given that there is a huge global cost to have a humanity that is fundamentally musical, that is not musically self-expressed, and more than ever before, particularly with the technological tsunami that's arriving, we need a new pillar of education, an additional pillar. The creative arts have a very new role to play in shaping the mind, to immerse a mind in improvisational thinking, in creative thinking, to prepare a mind to be able to deal with constant massive transformation. And so we see that music education has a very new role to play in the shaping of a new humanity. Now, the problem with music education over 300 years has been the way that it is taught. It's been the very thing that has precluded the masses from having access to musical self-expression. That's one of the issues. The other issue is that piano remains the foundational instrument. In anywhere, any country where music's taught formally, you can't get a degree in guitar or flute or any other instrument without studying piano. But the thing is, it's a beast. It's a giant beast that's stuck in one place. And it's not like a guitar or a violin or a trumpet that you can take it with you. You can't be walking down the street even with a keyboard. Accessibility has been a massive problem. And so for us, the real breakthrough will occur globally when we can transform both the methodology and accessibility. And this is where we are crowdsourcing genius. We have a project, we've partnered with Peter Diamandis' company, HeroX, and we're raising funds now to put up $1 million prize for any individual or team or organization that can create the world's first virtual piano. Put on a pair of glasses, and there's a virtual instrument that can be played in the manner of a piano. And the great thing about this is, given its portability, we really see there's a massive opportunity to scale this and roll it out into third world and developing nations, let alone the enormity of the existing marketplace for every musician, older, younger, executive who wants to sit on the subway on the way home and be able to put on his glasses and play his instrument, for every child in remote classrooms, for every person who just wants the solitude of being able to have a relationship with their instrument. We think we can cause a breakthrough in this area, and fundamentally a breakthrough in creativity for humanity.
Well, and I'm excited. I talked with Christian about
Yes.
this, and he was really
Wonderful
pumped, CEO of HeroX. And, when you look at it, I mean, I'm grabbing my smartphone and I'm going, they're now prototyping where you can just put this down and it will project, and it already has a keyboard and you can, type in, but
Yes.
also project to a wall or a screen and have the monitor, so you can have your full-blown computer with a smartphone. So really
Yes.
what we're talking about here is something that's not, I mean, it's around the corner. It's getting someone excited about it. And,
Yes.
and something about $1 million, what we've seen in incentive competition, Peter Diamandis started X Prize and really is kind of foundation company.
Yes.
It's a not-for-profit. They've just typically whatever you put up for the prize, there's tenfold more going toward where people are actually applying that, and some big breakthroughs. So I mean, I love how you're using this technology to get your message out, to go ahead and scale things up. And I would encourage everybody, as fellow entrepreneurs, we need to do this more. We can. We have so many of these great tools that can help us accelerate our success. Now, I want to take it back, Neil. You have a concept you talk about, the entrepreneurial triumphant. You had three,
like the Trinity.
Trinity. Yeah. Oh, it was even a higher standard here. Okay, the Trinity.
I like to give words to things. Words create worlds. So
yeah, no.
language
It
to
changed my vision right there, and I want to dive into it, and let's go through each of these. And one of the things you talk about, love, you talk about passion. Physical space is kind of the number one. Give me, and this is how, when I was talking with, I think we've been in Joe's group for about 4 years together, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
2011 for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've gone and what, I keep on seeing Neil. He's kind of, you see the passion here, but he's kind of the quiet guy that just keeps inching ahead of everybody in the room here. And, tell me where this love, passion, how this all comes together for entrepreneurs. We can say, well, there's some of that in music. That's an artsy, crafty thing, But how does that work for all of us as your fellow entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Well, when I talk about this Trinity, for me, as I said earlier, I have never conceived, articulated, executed, managed a marketing strategy ever. So when I'm around these groups, you talk about me being the quiet guy. That's because I'm sitting around in awe of all of the masterminds there that really understand this realm of, constructing and executing marketing strategies. For me, however, given that I've created a product that fundamentally impacts people's experience of themselves, they're compelled to share it. So that's really been the core behind the success of my organization. But then I look at it from the point of view of who do I need to be for the fulfillment of that vision. And what I can see clearly, there are 3 areas that I focus on personally. And I think this, I've had an opportunity to work with a lot of people in these 3 areas, and that I call this Trinity. And the first one is space. And when I say space, I'm talking at a very practical level here, your physical environment, the physical environment that you see and interact with. Now, one of the things that I believe is misunderstood is the extraordinary relationship between our physical space and entrepreneurial creativity. So whether we realize it or not, human beings by design are what I describe human beings as being relational. You know that experience of when, if you're talking to someone and you're in conversation, and then at some point you realize that you've gone off on another tangent, and they're still talking, and all of a sudden you recognize, oops, I'm not even there, and I've got to bring myself back. And I mean, I even lie about it. I'll bring myself back to the conversation and nod like I've been listening all along, and then I've got to try to listen to what the person's saying to catch up. We're very relational. Something happens and it just takes us off track. And we know that we do it in that conversational aspect, but there are ways in which it's happening that we're not quite as aware of. And that happens at an enormous degree in the area of our physical space. So for me, every object that you have in your field of vision has some meaning for you. That is a conversation, and these objects, they talk to us. Now, some of the objects, John, I noticed behind you, you've got a whole bunch of books, and I imagine that there's a wealth of knowledge in those books. So when you see those books, that's a conversation that would energize you. But for many of us, we have a folder on our desk that has unpaid bills, things that we haven't gotten to, things that we've just we've put things down in the space, and we create clutter. And every time we have something in our space, it's a conversation that's going on in the background, and it creates this white noise. And this white noise is way louder than we realize. And it sucks the entrepreneurial energy. It sucks your power. So if I were to just simplify this, and it's very easy for you to experience it. You know what it's like when your car's washed? You get into a clean car, that thing feels like it drives better, man. It just does feel that way. To bring that level of impeccability into your physical space, get stuff out of view, put stuff away, get it organized, only have things in view that have an energizing conversation will make an enormous difference. Just to spend a couple of hours in your physical space and to clear it and put it away, you'll feel more powerful. When you sit down at a desk that's cluttered, you bring all the conversations of the previous day's clutter back into your physical environment. So for me, the relationship with space is absolutely critical. That's one thing.
Well, let me just stop you for a second, because I totally agree. This is a big deal. I mean, my desk is a glass desk. There are no drawers. I don't want any clutter whatsoever.
Right.
And when you think about it, I'm going to ask all our fellow entrepreneurs, when you think about, when you're the most creative, it is not when you're surrounded by a desk full of papers. It is when, a lot of times it's in the shower. It's when you're out for a walk. It's
exactly
making those spaces and allowing things to happen. And so this is something that I would encourage all of us to, one of the things I want you to be is successful on purpose. And this is why I asked Neil to come, because as fellow entrepreneurs, my guess is maybe in the restaurant business, you had things all stacked all over the place, in past businesses I did. And when I started cleaning up my space, boy, business took off like crazy.
Yeah, well, actually, in the restaurant business, when I first took over my restaurant, I noticed the chaos that people had. And when I looked at the way that our chefs were working, I saw that they didn't have an understanding with the organization of space. They would throw things down here, throw things down there, throw things down here. And then when it's busy and they need it, now they can't find it and they're getting agitated. So I began a process of training them to bring order and organization to all of their gesture. And it was amazing how the whole mood of the restaurant calmed down, the whole mood of the relationship between the team freed up, and these became better, more capable, more competent, more creative chefs, just as a result of relationship and organization to space.
No, that's great. It's creating those systems around that the combination of that is just so amazing.
Yes. Yeah, these are like peace practices.
Well, let's continue. One of the other things you shared with me in your Trinity is the leaving nothing incomplete. What does that mean?
Completion.
Yeah.
Well, so I've talked about the physical things in our space, but there are also, for want of a better word, emotional or personal or psychological things that remain cluttered for us. Have you ever had that experience, John, where perhaps you've told somebody that you've met someone and you've had a conversation and you've told them you'll do something, and for whatever reason you don't do it? And then you happen to be out somewhere and you see that person, and the first thing that comes up is, oops, I said I'd call that guy. And I don't know, sometimes I've even been, horrible enough, like I'll avoid the person. I mean, it's gross, it's disgusting. I mean, I just
No,
know that I'll
feel
feel
awful, and one of
yes.
the
It's like,
things we want to do,
I haven't
our
done that
word is
thing.
our bond, and we
Right.
want to keep our promises.
There's something about that that is incomplete. Now, I say that we have thousands of these things in our life, things that we've said we do that we didn't do, things that are unfinished, things that we've done that we shouldn't have done, things that we've said we shouldn't have said, and vice versa, things that we haven't done. So action in that sense is things we do and things we don't do. And so I underwent a process a long time ago where, with a series of questions, I began looking at my life and what things had I done over my life that I could clean up and complete. And I found, I mean, I'm serious about it. I went way back to school. I remember picking a fight with a kid when I was in 7th grade, and I tracked this guy down. It was the weirdest thing. I mean, I just think about it. I actually tracked him down decades later and said, "Hey, is this John Valentine?" "Yes." "Is John Valentine from Bishop Street, West Footscray?" "Yes." "This is Neil Moore." Oh, silence. He knew exactly who it was because the last memory was me picking a fight with him. And I just apologized to the guy. I was a jerk. I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, man. That's just been on my mind. I'm talking about that level of the willingness to complete your past. Anything you take on where you can bring closure to it. And I wasn't even really wanting anything from him. It was completing it for me. So I mean, I don't know what I left him with when we got off the phone. He might have thought, heck, that was odd. But I know from my point of view that he was owed an apology. He deserved an apology. And for me, I created space. And the more you can do that in your life, the more it will transform your entrepreneurial creativity. Completion is critical.
Yeah, no, this is,
Core of integrity stuff.
well, and there's so much, if it's not completed, it's in the back. You don't even have to see the guy across the street.
Right.
It's
That's
in the back
exactly
of your mind. It's weighting you down. It's not leaving
weightless.
that open space for you to run. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the third Trinity? I can't
Well,
wait.
Look, this is about love for me. And what I mean is, what's the quality, what is the intactness of the core relationships that I have in my life? And I have found that for many entrepreneurs, their focus, their passion, their investment is towards their vision. And very often the relationships and the people surrounding that vision, which play a crucial role in supporting that vision, in some respects can sometimes experience a compromise in the regard that we have for them. For me, it's about love. A classic example for me is in my relationship. I fell in love with my wife November the 20th, 1970, 2 p.m., 44 years ago. She'd just turned 12. I had just turned 13. I have never not loved her a day in 44 years. We have an extraordinary familiarity. We've been married now 33 years. I have 3 adult children and a grandchild. We have an extraordinary friendship, but we saw years ago that we wanted to elevate that. When you establish that level of familiarity, certain rights come with that familiarity. So whilst we had an enormous ease with each other and a wonderful likability between each other and a great friendship, very placid, very peaceful relationship, but we saw that being in the presence of love could energize us newly. And so we learned how to hit the reset button constantly on our relationship. So instead of waking up in the morning and hopping in the shower and, "Hi, honey, how's your day? What are you up to? What are you doing?" Instead of coming home and in the evening, "Hey, how was your day? What did you get up to?" Instead of going to bed, "Good night, sweetheart, love you." Not like that. For us, it was, could she wake up in the morning? And could I just stop and look at this woman who's been my loyal friend for 44 years and take her face in my hands and say, "Thank you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for your loyalty and your friendship and your support. I appreciate it, and I'm going to spend my day honoring how much I love you." Was I willing to leave the home and not say, "Bye, sweetheart"? Was I willing to stop and connect our eyes together and embrace her, and in that embrace communicate who she has been for me for all of these years? The energy I leave the home with is the energy that I come back into the home with. So when I come home, we reconnect again and we get back in touch with our love, and before we sleep, it's "Thank you again for another day of loving me. I love you, I adore you, and I appreciate everything about you." That whole practice takes about 60 seconds, 90 seconds a day, and it will transform your experience. And you can bring that into every relationship in your life. It doesn't need to be the intimacy of your partner. For me personally, I physically embrace every one of my team member every day that I come in. It's a practice. I want these people to experience that I love you, and I honor the fact that you are giving your life to the fulfillment of a vision that has a greater purpose. You are part of something. We are doing something enormous and important in the world, and I value and appreciate you. Thank you. I want to do that at every restaurant that I'm at. When a server comes to my table, I want to ask that person, what is your name? Tell me a bit about you. Thank you for serving me. I'm humbled that someone serves me. That's a gift that someone serves me. I don't want to ignore these people. I want them to know that they matter and they're important and I love them. And so for me, when I'm in that state, I am absolutely at my best entrepreneurially. My ideas are most creative, my communication is most articulate, the fulfillment of my vision is most empowered. So for me, it's about space, completion, and love.
I love it too, Neil. And I do it. I don't think I do it as passionate. So I'm going to raise the passion level here going forward
why
because,
not?
well, and it's one of those things that so often all of us do. The privilege we have as entrepreneurs, and everyone on this, you're a successful entrepreneur, you're moving forward. We are so blessed, and to not only show that appreciation to ourselves, but to everyone around us. And
Yes.
and how could we not do it to our partners, our families, and these key people who are working with us. I mean, I'm so grateful for my team.
Yes.
They are, without them, I would not accomplish anything. With them, we're changing the world. And this is something that it's so easy in the day-to-day battle to get caught up in. So no, Neil, this is, now I know why you're so passionate. You never shared all the detail of the Trinity with me here. Now I've got it. And for all of you, I mean, go back, on AESNation.com. We'll have the show notes. We'll have the transcript of this, and read this because this is so important. It has nothing to do with any type of business. This is all business. This is all relationships.
Yeah.
Let me go to the next step though, and go to a segment that we call Book of the Day.
Oh.
And with your fellow entrepreneurs, Neil, what would be the book that you would recommend?
One book, definitely Peter Diamandis' Abundance.
Yeah, let me put it up on screen. This is one of my favorite books. I always love the subtitle, The Future is Better Than You Think. Neil, you and I have enjoyed meeting Peter. He's in Genius Network with us. And as we mentioned earlier, we were just at the Abundance 360. What is this book and kind of what Peter's message is? How is that affecting you in business?
Oh, enormously. Well, Peter's relationship with the future and his ability to articulate that is like no other person that I know. Being around Peter gives me an opportunity to be right at the cutting edge of what's happening in the world of science and technology. What's the future going to look like? And I think that, we know that we're on the verge of the arrival of a technological tsunami that will permanently alter the experience of humanity forever. We're entering into an era of permanent transformational change. And with this speed of change, with the vastness, the breadth and the depth of change that we're facing, we need to establish a very particular state of mind, a relationship with that future. And for me, Peter is not only a thought leader in that space, but he's also an example of how to have an embracing relationship with that future and see all of the wonderful opportunities and possibilities that it opens up for humanity as a whole. And so from that perspective, it's been invaluable. But at a practical level, I revolutionized my organization over the last 18 months as a result of Peter's work. I mean, my business was very physical. Books, DVDs, CDs, a distribution network, warehousing, inventory, centralized offices, a team of people working in a specific location. And Peter's perspective of digitizing, dematerializing, decentralizing, demonetizing, democratizing, that's become our mantra over this last 18 months. And so we've actually scaled down the physicality over the last of our offices. So we've shrunk to become bigger. We've moved away from the physical production in itself. I mean, I spend $500,000 just producing books every year, for example. And the freeing up of resources, and it's not just that, it's now we don't have the printing and the warehousing and the inventory and the boxes and the shipping and the team, and all of that goes away. And what it allows, it's really a space thing. It allows for that freedom, that operational freedom. Our method has only been available in a physical form, and we've gone through the process of digitizing everything, and it's automatically that we now have a program available fully digitally. It's already had an enormous impact on our ability. Just recently we've been able to establish locations in Russia, in the Philippines, in China, in South Africa, and so the speed of our ability to have outreach globally has been transformed as a result of this. And the demonetizing of this, we have really been able to reduce the cost that it takes, which has been a barrier of entry for people. We've been able to minimize that to a fraction of what it has been in the past. And we see that this is really what will allow us to go from the 700 plus to 7,000 to 70,000 over the next phase of our growth, these next coming years.
For all of us, I mean, as entrepreneurs, if you've been around a bit, you've seen dramatic changes in the internet, the speed, the broadband, the storage, the processing speed, and what we've already seen. We haven't seen anything, and this is where Peter's book and his new book just coming out, Bold. I mean, I would encourage everyone to pick it up, follow him, because you can hear how Neil is doing it, and it's changed my business dramatically as well.
Yes.
Let's go to the next segment. And Neil, I've got your website up. And it is simplymusic.com. Tell us, many of the entrepreneurs, I mean, some of them are like me. I kind of have on a bucket list. I was going to take lessons as a kid, never got around to it. I do have one of those big pianos in my house.
Yeah.
It's got a computer attached to it, so it does play without me. But, if I want to learn how to play, or you're seeing entrepreneurs that are, this is something, creativeness. It just,
absolutely.
I mean, I love music. I have music playing all the time.
Yes. That's a receptive thing when you're playing that music. It's a completely different experience when you're actually performing, which is a generative thing. That's that creative output. And my commitment, I can bring that to anybody immediately. That, all those myths about how long it takes, that's just not true. In fact, when you go on the website, as you scroll down, you'll see the various projects we're involved in. And our core curriculum is, what we call Simply Music Piano, which is our educator curriculum. But we also have this program, Simply Music Online, that's like a slice of the beginning stage of our whole program. And it's a learn-at-home program. It's available online. I'm committed to entrepreneurs having access to musical self-expression because I clearly understand the impact that it has on entrepreneurial creativity. I'll offer every one of the people that are listening to this broadcast an opportunity to get that program for free. I'll give it to you. If you want to contact me, I don't know if you can give everybody my email address.
Well, let's Neil at simplymusic.com, and we'll have it in the show notes as well. And Neil, I appreciate the generosity, and a lot of us have. We're running out of excuses of not using music to express ourselves. So,
I love to give. I love to give things away. There's no question. To me, it's almost like one of my secret weapons. The more I give, the more I get. It's just like spreading my sails, and I can capture more of the wind.
No, this is.
So I'll give everybody that. And here's what my promise is. Anyone, if you can, this isn't a long, arduous thing. If you can find 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, a few days a week, you start this week, by next week, I'll have you playing some contemporary and some classical and some blues piano. I mean, serious, not Little Mary Had a Little Lamb. I'm talking about playing the piano. I can bring musical self-expression to anybody immediately. Seriously.
I'm going to take you up on it. I'm going to encourage all the other entrepreneurs to do that as well.
Great.
Let me go to the last segment here.
Yeah.
Takeaways, and let me share what I'm walking away. I mean, one of the things that I love before we got to the Trinity is just, Neil said, geez, I'm not a good marketer. Well, I'm going to say he's one of the best marketing people I've ever met. And what he understands is the importance of delivering a great client experience. And by delivering that client experience and doing a super job, what happens? People want to share that experience with others. The power of word of mouth is just amazing, and he's built a global business, world largest playing-based musical education in the world. And he's done it, and he shared with us the Trinity. Really understanding the importance of physical space. Going ahead and making sure nothing is left not completed. I'm thinking I've got to call Eddie Mead, a guy I had a fight with in 6th grade too now. But, everything. And then the key relationships, to really appreciate the love that surrounds us. We've got an awful lot to be grateful for. Yes. Go out, read the transcript, look at the show notes, take Neil up on the online music. I'll be looking forward to hearing your concert, but more importantly, execute his Trinity. Your clients, your future clients are all counting on you. Don't let them down. We wish you the best of success.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.